I've seen some CCNPs that couldn't even run trace routes for NS lookups. Like they couldn't find MAC
Really?
addresses. Oh, don't get me started on that.
Being brought to you by the TechTual approach to breaking into cybersecurity ebook. If you're thinking about getting into cybersecurity, discovering your ideal role, having trouble getting interviews, having trouble in your interviews, need LinkedIn help, or all the above, then this is the book for you. You can purchase this book at TechTualConsulting.com/digital products. The link will be in the description. What's good, everybody, man? Welcome back to another episode of TechTual Talk Podcast. I'm your host, HD, man. This episode 27, 28, I don't even know. But we halfway through January. We got my guy Randall, aka 50. You see he got the ATL hat on. We finna rock today, man. You know what I'm saying? If you watch me on YouTube right now, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, share for the YouTube algorithm. Go ahead and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, you name it, man. It's 2022, man. This is what I do. But without further ado, let's really get into the interview. But all right, man. So we got Mr. Randall here, man, hailing from Atlanta, ATL.
Yeah.
Let's give him a round of applause real quick.
Yeah, man. What's happening?
But yeah, man, I appreciate you for tapping in with the podcast. And, you know, we're always trying to demonstrate that Black excellence, man. Something that I'm pretty sure me and you didn't get when we was not trying to, you know, when we was younger, trying to see who looked like us doing this stuff that we do now.
Oof.
So I want you to just kind of tell the people a little bit about, you know, yourself and who you are, and just briefly, kind of like you would do in an interview. It's like, so tell me about yourself.
All right, man. So say y'all what's happening. My name is Randall. Everybody call me 50. I'm really from College Park, you know what I mean? Atlanta, you feel me? Born in the A, raised in College Park. Right now I live in DC doing this cybersecurity thing up here. And that's why I live in Atlanta, because everybody be asking me, why would you leave Atlanta? I had to focus, man. Like strip clubs open at 12, bro. Like I got to get out of here. I got to get out of there, man. But yeah, I'm up here doing like cybersecurity stuff. And I try and help people get into the field just like yourself. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to do same thing, bro. Like you trying to get people in, I'm trying to get people in. And yeah, I want more representation at these conferences and stuff up here in DC. Shouldn't be just like 2 Black people in like a sea of 3,000 or something. That's crazy.
Y'all heard them gunshots. Yeah, and you know it's funny, on Twitter I had asked about what are some conferences this year, because I do want to get out to go to some of these conferences now that they kind of open up from being virtual. I don't mind virtual, but I actually like meeting people and them seeing my face,
Right.
hearing my voice and all that. But that's dope. So what we'll do is we'll ask about your background. Far as you said, you're like from Atlanta. Did you have a traditional route? Did you go to school, military, or how did, you know, what kind of field y'all started wanting to get into this?
All right. So I was supposed to go to Clark, Atlanta, but some of my partners from high school, some of my closest friends, they was going to the school called Southern Poly, which is what it was, an engineering school, and it was originally a part of Georgia Tech like a long time ago. But then it broke off and became its own engineering school. And so I just went over there with them. Started off computer science. Turned out I was trash at programming, but I love to party way more than I did go to school. And so I would go to class, you know, and not do anything. But it's like I was still familiar enough with computers and wireless routers, and I could still fix stuff. And so when I ended up getting back in school, I changed my major to computer science because I was already working in IT. My GPA was never good enough to co-op or intern because, once again, I partied way too much. And so, yeah, that's how I got started. My very first IT job was when I was like 19. I was at a club called Prime Time. If you ever look at any of them old Atlanta music videos where you might see like Gucci Mane and like Waka, it's at prime time. And so I was in front of the DJ booth and I was, leaning and rocking, I was killing this. Boom. And this dude came by. He was like, yo, you want a job? Doing what? He's like, you familiar with databases? Yeah. Give me a call. At the club. My very first IT job came from the club, bro. Like, no cap. And I was doing database stuff in 19. And I got my first help desk or desktop support job when I was 20, probably like a couple months later. But I was already familiar with Cisco stuff from my from the guy that lived next to me in college. Like, he got his CCNA and A+ like when he was 18, and he would always tell us. So yeah, so that's kind of how I got started a little bit in IT.
Hey, that's fire though. The fact that you said you was at the club listening to them franchise boys and you got a job offer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but that's what I always tell people too. Like, people be surprised. Like, a lot of business deals get done at the bar.
Yeah.
At the strip club. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey man, let's talk business. Let's go eat at so and so.
Yeah.
And boom, we talking because you make relax. You really getting to see who this person is outside of work. And that's pretty much how that is. But let's get into, everybody, you know what I'm saying? If people don't know, if you're watching this right now, I don't have Twitter on my phone no more. I'll just be automating my tweets from Buffer. But when I was more active on Twitter, I always see people talking down on help desk and this and that. And these people ain't never worked help desk, number one. Because if you work help desk, it's just like any job where people talk down on. If you work the job, you got a newfound respect for it. It's like people talk about teachers. You got a new respect for teachers when you're a teacher, or help desk, or trash man, or whatever type of job it is. Retail, I used to do retail.
Me too.
Most of everybody who came from help desk or did help desk is, once they make the right connections and once they leave help desk, they take off.
If they leave.
And they have like that's why I said the key word if, but they have a good balance of skills. I think like some of the best people came from there just because of they have a whole different outlook. Like, a lot of people come in, they just kind of like tunnel vision on what they focus on, but the help desk people think about everything and how it makes sense. So talk about that experience briefly.
So the one thing that I've learned as I've ascended through my career is, and this is why, even though like I could tell somebody how to jump straight into system admin or network engineering, because I can tell them the tricks of the trade and teach them how to, be that person. The one thing that being on the help desk or desktop support teaches you is how to relate to the customer, how to relate to the people that you're supporting. And see, a lot of times, especially when you do security, you just think, oh, I got to make sure that this is secure. But then you have some people that they just don't care about any of the after effects of the decisions. So they'll like implement a control or make a change. Then there's all these tickets come in about, oh, these users can't access something that they need to do a job. But then the security person is like, oh, well, this needs to be secure. And I'm just like, well, does it? Because I'm pretty sure like if you have a range of skill sets, you know how to make it work. That's one thing that being help desk and desktop support teaches you that balance, teaches you like how to make it work within the guidelines of, wherever you're working at. So my first help desk job, I worked for Atlanta Public Schools. It was probably the most fun, the most ratchet, the most interesting. you know, and I loved every single minute of it, man. Like, it was an experience. And so we would go in, we would do, like PC refreshes. Like in the summer, you do like a PC refresh, you install new desktops. And then, I knew Cisco switches, before I knew anything else. So it's like I would help the networking people be like, oh, well, this isn't working because it's on the wrong VLAN, stuff like that. We would go to different schools and do the refresh stuff during the summer. But then in the school year, I had, I guess, a special skill set for networking. So they sent me to a school with a whole bunch of networking issues, and I helped get them straight. But it was fun. Anybody who's ever worked in a school system, I'll tell you, it gets very interesting, especially when you're 20 and you go to like a high school where it's like the kids are your same age and the principal is stopping you in the hallway. And then it's like all the kids are trying to hook you up with their teachers. Like, I got some crazy stories from APS, man. Like, well, them kids is wild, but that was my first time. Oof.
Man, that sounds like a lot of fun though, no lie. Like,
Oh yeah.
I know, like, my help desk experience is pretty fun with the people. Like, the people that you work with mostly what make or break most of your jobs always.
Right.
Management was cool until a certain point where they was holding me back personally. But let's see. So you mentioned you knew about Cisco before anything.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know about the Cisco switches and routers? Did that help you do something else in the school system, or did that prepare you to do something else?
Well, it was a little bit of both, because remember, the guy who lived next door to me in college, he was a CCNA, and he was 6 months older than me. And so at this point, he's 20, so he's got his CCNP by now. And so, like, I already knew that, the Cisco stuff paid money. And so I was the youngest person on our team. I was like 20. And then the next youngest guy was a guy named Stan, or I call him Stan the Man. And so he was just doing that job, just as extra pocket change. He was working overnight, making good money. That was a side gig. And he would always tell me, he would be like, "Hey man, don't be like these jokers. You better get your certifications." And even back then, he was like Security Plus, MCSA, MCSE, CCNA. I saw him studying for his CCNA voice anytime he got some downtime. And that's really like kind of what propelled me to kind of move in that direction of networking. And man, ever since then, I think it's a great decision looking back in hindsight, because now, more than ever, you see that networking is the backbone of everything. And so they just put me in networking situations. And then I knew Linux from school. And so any schools that had like Linux servers and then like networking issues, that's where I went.
Nice, man, nice. Because when you actually start approaching, if you like kind of look at IT or whatever information or whatever as a whole, you kind of look at it like a human body. Maybe we don't know. I can't really think about what's the head, or maybe the database is the head. I don't know. But then like you said, you got the backbone networking, then you got security, got this part, then you got stuff you always got to do like with storage. Then you got help me out here. I know I'm missing something.
Shoot, well, now
it sounded good in my head.
I mean, now
but
you got pretty cloud, much, you got virtualization, wireless, you got voice.
Right, like everything pretty much works together.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I found out, I worked at an organization where people would scoff at certain positions, not scoff at it, but they would treat them like they was better than them, not knowing that. Like, for example, I was working at an MSS one time, and the engineers or something was kind of blanketed from some of the SOC analysts. So when I got there, I was asking the leadership about that. And I was like, well, that's dumb, because what they don't know is this company sells the SOC as the service. So they're the most important part of this whole thing. So if you lead them out to dry, you can crash and burn like that.
Right. And
that's what a lot of people, that's why like my last company was like, when we went there, we had this big speech like, nobody's more important than the other, because we make everything run together. And you need to understand that what we do does affect this company's actual business. And I said this in a last podcast episode that hadn't been released yet, but people be working, but forget that we actually supporting businesses. They just thinking they just doing security and networking, database, you name it. But like, no, we supporting businesses. Like, if we do our job correctly, the business continues to flourish and make money. That's the goal.
Right.
And if we're not doing it right, then it's going to affect the business, and then your job potentially could be affected. So And when people kind of keep that in the forefront, they tend to do better, you know. But let's talk about. Actually, you was finna cook a little bit. Go ahead and cook.
Man, I got to, bro, because I've seen this from several people who probably lucked their way into higher positions, and they would talk down to like your SOC ones or your help desk people. And I tell them, in each time I run to a help desk person, I tell them, you are customer facing, even though I'm not customer facing anymore. You're on the front lines, like taking all the hits from all the customers, things that I don't have to see. And that is very underrated and most importantly unappreciated. And the same thing with the SOC guys, even though they might be just like taking like the influx of tickets from the SIEM, that's a very important job, because if they don't do it, then the SOC level 2, the level 3 guys, the incident response guys, they can't do their job, because they got to figure out like what's a false positive and what's not, or what should even be dealt with. And those SOC 1 guys, they streamline that process. So you can't appreciate where you are if you don't appreciate from whence you came and what's before you. I think that's, I don't know, man. I think that's kind of BS, man. Like I've seen that a lot.
That's facts, man. That's why I have that article, and I got some more blogs to do. But I know one of my favorite ones is when I tell people like, "Hey, if you're working in a SOC, like it's not a freaking help desk for security." Now, a lot of people just think, because now you do have the MSS SOCs where they don't really do much. They just get the alert, boom, send it to the customer.
Yep.
But if you're in a SOC that let you do, now some SOCs handle the whole cycle. They do incident response too, and some will do a little bit of that and then give it to the IR team. If you're in a SOC that actually lets you make decisions and sit in on content meetings and other stuff like that, that's more than freaking help desk stuff.
Right.
That's why I would push back a lot when there's something that our client can automate or something. I say, man, what we doing that for? Like, get the help desk to do it. Like, or I would hate when somebody didn't have a 24/7 help desk. I'm like, no, they need to be 24/7 like us, because one of the biggest things that we used to struggle with was asset management.
Oh,
trying to find out where asset belongs.
right.
And I need to find somebody that does asset management, because that's an underrated job in itself.
That's a whole other
Because if you got to have certain, right, because you got to have certain stuff labeled, like I need to know this is critical infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
If I just think it's some regular server and I got a ticket on I see some type of malware on it, or not me, or maybe one of the analysts, they don't take it as serious. We looking in a couple of hours, something big that went down because we didn't know it was critical,
Mm-hmm.
or we didn't know that this asset was belonging to a VIP.
Yeah. And so
like an exec, like.
And so usually, and so that's what I do with the SIEM. So like now my specialty is the SIEM. I can still get down in the router, switch, a Palo and all that stuff. But now I'm super Splunk, QRadar, FortiSIEM, Elastic, you name it. And so in the SIEM, you're supposed.
I hate QRadar.
Why you hate QRadar, bro?
Just because I feel like they didn't keep up with the times. It started dropping too many logs. Everywhere I went, they used QRadar. It was dropping logs all the time.
Mm.
Now it could have been on the engineers, or it could have just been the company that want to pay. They need to pay to keep it to be right, but it was like it just didn't pick up. I was like this. Maybe if those companies had like some like SysMon or something put in to where it picked up better logs, but.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't always pick up the good Windows events. So I was like, I love Splunk for simplicity, and hey, we just throw whatever logs to it, and Splunk had it.
Yeah. And see, like with QRadar, with any Splunk, you really need somebody who really knows what's going on, to advocate for your business. Because if we'll just pick on QRadar right now. So if your QRadar only has like a license for 2,000 EPS and you're crunching 3,000 a day, you're gonna lose logs. You need somebody to say, hey, y'all need to up the EPS, and then also, when it comes to a SIEM, I make sure that, I pretty much do all the asset stuff myself. When it's like I'll identify all the VIPs, the VIP assets, like all the important servers, all the critical infrastructure, so that way, the level of criticality for the tickets, it's there. I've seen in some organizations that it's sometimes not like that, and that's kind of why I'm trying to pivot, or at least create my own lane with like SIM optimization, where it's like I make sure that your SIM is running as efficiently as possible for whatever shop you're in.
Definitely, man. And that's an underrated one. I know one of the big things that this new company I'm with now, and I don't know, some people know if they follow me on LinkedIn, but when we were interviewing, one of the big things they asked me about, say, hey, we see you put on one of your highlights, like you really help with like tuning of the SIM. Like, how do you go about doing it? Because tuning is one of the, like, getting the noise out is so important.
Right.
Because and that's why I liked how I started my career, because now if I ever get into, because I want, one of the other things I want to do is I want to get into detection. So I actually plan to help detections see their detections and see how actionable they are, because I'll be eventually working some of those.
Right.
And we had some detections that just were useless. So you spent 20 minutes looking at something that really didn't need to be fired,
Mm-hmm.
or something that didn't have enough information in it, or like, like, for example, and it takes, like you said, it takes a person who really knows. Like, it's one thing to just know how to do the logs or stuff in the SIM, but then it takes another person to know how to do the SIM and knows how to actually write good correlation rules.
Right.
Because I had the one of my videos, I think, when I say what they don't tell you about working in the SOC,
Mm-hmm.
when we had this incident, is I had already seen it. I wish I had access to like all this stuff, which I screenshot it. But I told them, I was like, hey, I don't think our analysts are handling this alert the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to come back and bite us, because all the closing notes are the same, but something isn't right. This shouldn't be firing this frequently if it's supposed to be this critical.
Right.
And what happened always happened. And that's why it's important that you have maybe your monthly and your quarterly and then your weekly review, the SIM engineer looking at all the detections that's fired, looking at what escalated, what didn't. And then that's how you really go in, because metrics only tell one half of everything. You got to figure out why we're not escalating them.
Right.
And that's where, like, I came in, and then we had got some other leads. So that's kind of how you get that maturity. Because one of the things I have on my resume is like, I help our SOC reach like a maturity level of 3 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I figured like it was a 3, could have been a 4. And so that's some of those things that people don't talk about. It's like, yeah, it's really good for me to be able to, I can do this complex Splunk query, I can do this and that, but I need to understand why and what this rule is for, and the business justification. What have we seen that we don't know that's been coming in on in the network, and what this rule is for,
Mm-hmm.
and explain it to the analysts, because sometimes you just put something in there, but they don't really explain it to them, and they you leave it to them to figure it out, and it's not good enough.
Right. Man, look, IT in general is all about the sharing of information. And if you are in, let's say, like a higher position, like you're like, let's say tier 2, tier 3, it's your responsibility to make sure that information flows down to them. Because what may be just like common knowledge to you might be something brand new to them. And then what happens with that is that improves your overall maturity level. And so now they're more apt to say, oh, okay, this is something serious, so now they know to act on it better, and even when it comes to a SIM, man, like I actually got in trouble for this. So at one of my jobs, so I built the SIM from scratch by myself. I got all the log sources pointed at it. I did all the parsing of the logs myself. I did all the third party integrations. I did all the what do you call those things? The visualizations. I did all that stuff. Zero professional services. And management, well, one of the managers came up to me, was like, Randall, there are 20,000 tickets open. I was like, well, what did you expect when you have a SIM and there are no, like all the default rules are turned on. We don't even know what rules to turn on and turn off based on the logs that are coming in. So it's like, first off, I can't fight that battle. and then fight 20,000 tickets. That 20,000 tickets ain't my fight. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if I built this thing, I need to be able to say, okay, I see this log source firing that. That's not really something that we need to really be monitoring for. Let's tune that out, or let's change a threshold or something like that. Tuning a SIEM, it really takes knowing your environment, knowing the tools that's in the environment, knowing what you have, and knowing what you need and any gaps that need filling, and especially what logs are coming over and what info comes from them. So it's like you might have a log that might, tell you GET requests, and you might have a log that might tell you connection requests, and you might see, oh, well, this person's going to this website, and you're like, nah, it's just a connection request loading in the back end. They're really trying to go here. There's so many things like with the SIEM, it's crazy, but I love it, and that's why I plan on doing it, because a lot of SIEM vendors, especially up here in DC, they're like, yeah, there's quite a few companies that could use you right now. So I'm like, all right.
Hey, thanks, man. I know, like, well, now it's 4 years ago. That's crazy. But when we started the contract, man, look, quick story time for the people.
Listen.
So when I started my last job, we took over for another provider. The provider that was providing for our client at the time was DXC. So they had access to everything, right?
Right.
DXC didn't really give us access to our systems probably like 2 days before you're supposed to take over the contract. And that contract, I think we took over like for sure 12:01 a.m. July 1st. When I tell you, man, it was just like, let me play the snake thing when you used to play Metal Gear Solid. Yeah. Everything going off, man. We looking at trying to find documentation. Documentation was horrible. All types of trash rules. No type of real allow list, block list that we can. It's a lot, man. And that experience right there really taught me a lot. It's kind of one of the things I lean on when I did interview for like different lead SOC positions or anything like that. Because of that experience. And people don't understand. That's why people say experience is like the trumps everything you could put on your resume, from projects to search, you name it, because, yeah, you passed the test and okay, yeah, you worked on this at home, but what have you did to actually help the company make money or keep them from losing money?
Right.
What did you actually do, to make something better and to go from that mess? And that was one of the reasons why I hated QRadar too, because their QRadar environment was horrible. Now, our engineer, he did a great job at cleaning it up, but what we ended up doing was just forwarding all the rules from QRadar. Eventually, the loss was going to QRadar into Splunk. And then we took everything from Splunk and then sent it to Phantom. But right before I left, we moved from Phantom to Palo Alto XOR.
Okay.
Which was pretty cool. I kind of liked it. I think it was a little bit more simplistic. I liked it. Phantom got super expensive because that Splunk name on it, Splunk on it, and that's how it did. But yeah, man, that was, man, I can go on and on about that. It was a good experience though. I mean, it was reminiscent to me about like how when I did TSA help desk, and we covered, like, they had to cover for us to handle the federal air marshals, and the lines lit up, and they talking about stuff we ain't never seen. So that's why we tell people like help desk experience is underrated, because you've been through a similar situation, so you can stay cool, calm, and collected. You're not really stressing out. Like, man, this is nothing. I was dealing with actual air marshals that need to use their phone for internet because their job is important.
Right.
That is way more stressful to me than dealing with these rules right here.
Right. And see, like, I worked for when I was a network engineer, so I worked for pretty much a deployment arm of Cisco. And so I supported one of the biggest banks in the country. And there was like a team of like 3 of us, and we did every single like ATM, branch, big building, admin, data center, and the trading floor on Wall Street. So could you imagine trying to configure network devices for a trading floor on Wall Street? You want to talk about pressure? Oh man, if you miss one thing, you might as well just you might as well put
Yeah,
former
man.
employee on LinkedIn, 'cause, it's ugly.
Tell me about it.
Shoot. So honestly, this was one of my this one was kind of fun. It was luckily I was all remote. Um and the guy who ran our team was really sharp guy. You really couldn't BS him because it seemed like he knew everything about Cisco. So it's like you couldn't be like, oh well, I can't update this access list. He'll be in the mall and be like, dude, you got 10 minutes. If I go in my car and I see this access list isn't done, I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna drive to where you at. We're gonna have a problem, and then you're fired. So it's like he really pushed us to be great. And so with this project, I got a chance to be on the team because I came in as like a CCNP, so they were like, oh well, he must have this experience, which I did. Thankfully, my experience matched my certification, which is kind of rare nowadays. Um, but look, I've seen some CCNPs that couldn't even run trace routes for NS lookups. Like they couldn't find MAC
Really?
addresses. Oh, don't get me started on that.
Man, you sound like shout out to De'Ara CCIE by
Shout out
30,
to
man. That's
D.
the kind of stuff that she talks about, man.
Shout out to
Shout out to
D.
her, shout out to
She's up
Annalise.
here. We actually was supposed to. D was happening. And it's like you see these things like and see going back to like what you said about like the experience over the certification. If they're like, Randall, I'll need you to evaluate for somebody to be on the team, and somebody's like, yeah, I'm a CCNP, I'm like, okay, cool. So tell me about a time you got burnt or bit, meaning that you made a mistake or you learned from something. What was the root cause of it and what was the fix? And so that right there will tell you, if they were the ones that even fixed it, or were they just
Mhm.
on the team? Because a lot of people end up skating and ending up in these high powered or high up technical positions just because of the job description of their role. But when it came to actually doing the work, they weren't there. You know,
Hey, that's facts.
oh
Because a lot of people just existing on a team.
yeah,
And I just want to highlight what you said about the guy that really held y'all accountable and made y'all work hard.
hmm
Shout out to him because I used to try to do that to some of my teammates and they was kind of lazy. That's the reason why not the reason I left, but I didn't want to. I had the opportunity to possibly be the manager of my old team, and I didn't really want that at all because I was like, a couple people on my team, I was going to want to just not be fired, but move to a different contract immediately,
right.
and I probably would have to wait on that. And I was like, I can't tolerate that
Were you in charge?
because
Were you in charge
it was going to.
of choosing your team or hiring your team?
So towards the end, I was in those decisions. I started doing a lot of interviews for the people we was bringing on, which was cool. Which gave me what I do, like my side thing. I see a lot of different resumes and stuff now where people going wrong. Why ain't nobody calling you? I see that.
Mm-hmm.
But then I saw from the also interviewer standpoint of people, how the companies come out, how they think. Because I'm not when I interview, I'm not really looking to what's the port for SMTP? I'm not looking for that. I don't really care. I know you can Google that.
Right.
I don't care about that. I care about your personality type and how do you think. Because I'll ask you something simple as, okay, this is a question I've asked people in interviews. Let's say a new rule was turned on with no documentation. How would you approach handling that new similar? And I go there and I hit them immediately go to, oh, I'm going to go look up documentation. But I was like, wait, there's not, there's no documentation. It's fire. Like, what are you going to do? And there we go from there, because that's all I want to see. Because like a lot of times we're not going to have anything in Confluence on. It's just going to be a brand new rule.
And there's some IT shops, there just isn't any documentation just because like they've historically been, just like a continuous work in progress. And so it's like you're having to shotgun everything or do everything
Yeah.
from scratch.
Man, Tell me about it. But all that experience was good. Like I even just thought about like if they said like I thought about the time I crashed and burned. It was like when I worked when I did my knock job.
Mm-hmm.
It was my first time working weekends by myself, and I messed up. Like during the week, they were always the alarms would go off and stuff like that. But it was like, oh, we doing, this is like a false positive. We doing some upgrades or something. So my mind was already set on the weekend when that happened that it's nothing major, but it ended up being something major, and so I really messed up on that, and I learned from it.
Right.
And then it was another time I messed up because the knock I worked for, they was in the payment card industry, and specific they had this certain type of software for like I forgot what Income's gift cards and stuff is, but you might be familiar with Income because you're from Atlanta. They headquartered in Atlanta.
You said Income,
but INCOMM.
Oh yeah,
they might have got bought out recently. I can't remember.
Yeah,
but I used to work for them. They had the company I worked for in Dallas was named Online Strategies. They had this software that Income wanted, but they partnered with them and kind of let them run as their own entity for a while. And we had this report we used to have to send. They used to do stuff for like back in like Fred's Pharmacy, CVS, other companies. And so they needed to look at these certain numbers. Well, me and the other couple of people, we was messing up a little bit. The reports were simple, but we were messing up the reports because of the way the forwarding was coming from the email, sending the wrong numbers from the wrong time. And we messed up on that too. However, that was something simple that should have just been automated.
Right.
That have been something that totally could have been reduced from human error. But I mean, that was the time I messed up on something simple. And so, I mean, on this channel, I do share my wins and losses. Like I tell people about just being transparent, and that's the best thing you can do. Like I think people get so much bad advice. They thinking people looking for, somebody perfect.
Right.
And companies really not looking for that. I mean, on paper, that's what it's like. But when you get to the interviewer, they're not looking for somebody perfect. They rather have somebody who don't know everything that's willing to work than a so-called know-it-all that don't know it at all.
Right.
And that's a bar. Let me gush out there.
Yeah, that's a bar. That's a fact.
Okay. I see that all the time. But dope, man. So how long have you been in the DC area?
Man, I've been up here going on 4 years.
Okay, that's nice. That's nice. That's one of the areas I said I wanted to visit too. A lot of people talk about DC, so I've always wanted to come out. Well, I've technically been through the area kind of, but that was like so long ago, and it was like a short trip. Like we came to the inauguration in like 2008, so that don't really count to me. But I definitely want to come out there. I know it's like a lot of good things going on. Definitely a lot of good artifacts to see, and I know it's too cold out there for me to come now, so I have to wait till it heat up.
Yeah, I mean,
but I definitely put in that work for some of them conferences to go to. I know I put in for one of the ones in Chicago. They had like this security blue team or some conference. I don't know, but where they was at, and I heard Chicago got a nice skyline. So I was like, who knows there. I've heard good things about Render ATL conference.
Yeah, I saw the pictures and I saw videos in that one. I'm like, shoot, that kind of makes me want to slide back to the A real quick.
Like, right, that's what I'm saying. I think I want. I mean, I just want to get out there and just meet like-minded folks because,
right,
we got enough of us now. It's got enough experience so we can eventually start our own superpower and do this thing, man. Because I was thinking, I was like, the other people, they're not necessarily better than us. They just got to the market first.
Yeah,
that's how I feel. And I think that's with like a lot of things that we going up against. But that could turn into a whole different conversation.
Yeah, man.
But so I think you said something about an architect, and what's your like specific title? Or I know you probably wear many hats, but on paper, what is it?
So on paper, my title is the information security engineer. My what I actually do is I'm a cybersecurity engineer and I'm a security architect. And so I pretty much handle, your vulnerability management stuff, anything in or around or interrelated to the SIEM. Do you like your SSL decryption? I do all the firewall stuff. I do stuff in like AWS. I do like zero trust stuff. And then of course, like I help troubleshoot, like if there's like connectivity issues, like I'm usually the escalation point for that. So yeah, I'm probably forgetting stuff.
What is it called? A master of many things is better than a master of none. I think that's the actual quote, because people always try to downplay that. That. So that's what's up, man. So do you do the hiring and stuff too?
Nah, man. So I'm not like in a managerial role. I'm just like the technical
Principal?
guy. Like I'm like the, if all things fail, like ask Randall, he'll probably have an answer.
Yeah, that remind me of my principal guy he pretty much did Splunk for us. He also set up Phantom and Palo Alto Cortex for us.
Mm-hmm.
He was always handling like how to scrub the different logs to make sure certain freaking PII and other things weren't in the logs that came into Splunk.
Mm-hmm.
He was the guy that pretty much politely told the client to like fuck off in so many words. Like, we can't do that. Like, and that don't make sense.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna hold my nuts on it. So that's pretty much what I surmise that you do. So what we'll do is, what I'll ask right now is, like, if you was going to give advice on, granted, because me and you can't just come out the gate doing what you do.
Right.
A lot of people try to sell that. You just don't have enough experience. You ain't seen enough. Now, if somebody willing to take a chance on you and actually train you on that, cool. But you just don't have enough experience and hands-on with different things to do that. But if somebody wanted to eventually do what you do,
Mm-hmm.
what would you know what I'm saying? We're going to do a drum roll, and at the end of the drum roll, we're going to start what you tell them to do.
All right. So the first thing I would tell them to do is not get your A+. And so it's like I see a whole bunch of people in Facebook groups and on Twitter saying like, "Oh, I want to get started and get my A+." I'm like, look, that was what we did in 2008 in order to try and get in. I'm like, look, it's 2022. Security is now a big thing, and that wasn't around then. Cloud is a big thing that wasn't around then. Like you don't have to start at a desktop role, but you shouldn't undermine it neither, because that's a perfect place
Right.
to start out. So I'd say, look, study your Network Plus material, but don't necessarily take the cert. Take your Security Plus and take your CCNA. The reason being is even if you
Same thing I said in my book.
yeah,
Well, I didn't say CCNA. I said you can just have at least the fundamental knowledge of Network Plus, Security Plus, and then entry level cloud cert for security.
yeah.
Only because they may not have the money to do that CCNA. If they want to, they can still do it. But
Shoot,
I know by and large,
the Security Plus and the CCNA probably cheaper than Security Plus.
You think so?
I'm pretty sure, because I think Security Plus is what, $349. CCNA is probably $300.
I last time I took Security Plus was 2013, so I don't even know.
But mine is 09.
Speaking of, dang it, my CEU is coming up for my CISSA Plus. I wonder if I want to actually do that. I'm gonna try to do that before it run out.
Man,
in like March
you ain't got your CISSP yet?
That's one of the things I put on my the thing to for them to pay for. I want to always years ago I said I want to wait till I had the experience and be in a role where I actually utilize it.
Ooh, see, like that right there, that's pretty much why I'm trying to do all the stuff that I'm doing right now. That's why I did my YouTube channel Talk Tech with 50, and that's why I try and speak as much as I can, because I want to dispel so many rumors. Do you know how many CISSPs that know absolutely nothing?
Nothing.
You know what I mean?
No, I know that for a fact, and that's why I also know it's like half and half. Like CCISP means something if you know how to use it, and some people, because I know a dude like one of my supervisors one time at helpdesk, he tried to get it and he failed it. Another dude on my last team, because this is what they're doing, they're trying to go take a week boot camp and cram all that stuff in, thinking they're gonna pass, and they played you. I'm gonna add the little baby a money bag. You played a soundbite on here, because you can't. That's too much information to ingest, and you're not gonna be able to utilize it correctly if you pass it at all. Anyway,
Here's what I'll say. The CISSP, it plays off of what you already know. And so full transparency, I passed my CISSP my 7th attempt, and I paid for them all out of pocket. And for those who don't know, that cert was $600 an attempt, and on my 7th one it was $700. Imagine that. So and so the thing is like me always being like very strong networking, and like system wise, I knew all the protocols and stuff. Like, so those kind of questions with wireless, those were a piece of cake. But the domain that gave me trouble was always like the legal stuff with e-discovery and
Right.
all that other stuff. That was my Achilles heel. And so it turns out that when I got my first cybersecurity job, it was doing incident response, and I got trained by pretty much the forensics guy. So he taught me chain of custody, how to like
Mm-hmm.
capture images, like in case enterprise. He taught me all that stuff. So when I went to go take my test after that, I winged my test and I almost passed it, and so like I was like, oh, all I need to learn is, these two things. I went back and aced it, man. And so
Yeah.
like for people,
And but that's a good point you made though, because it's like honestly, like the rule of thumb, they say you need 5 years experience. We know you could take it before the end if somebody you put the money up and you put the right thing on the application. But all in all, I'm all about getting certs that you'll use at work. Because I've seen a lot of people with the CISSP that's not even in a security role or whatever, and so they still trying to find their first role. So I'm just like, I get it, because a lot of people told them if you go get your CISSP, somebody finna pay you like 150K. A lot of people been told that.
so what I would tell people is, so there's the whole HR thing. It's all about getting past HR. You want to use your
Yep.
certifications to get past HR. The CISSP is never a bad thing to have on a certification. However, there's also the job in question that you're actually doing. Those two things are completely exclusive and separate. And so what people have to do is, first of all, I tell people this: once you get your CISSP, there will be an expectation that you are in a certain pay range. It may not necessarily be 150, because you have to have your CISSP is supposed to complement your primary skill set, because the CISSP doesn't
Mm-hmm.
require a burden of having to be able to do something. And so when I got my CISSP, it was attached to my two Cisco CCNPs. So it's like I was making money because I had two CCNPs and a Palo Alto cert. Then the CISSP, it just enhances that, and so it's like,
But see, the key word that you just said though, you already had skills.
yeah.
See, some of these people don't have that. They going in, and so what's happening is the game that got saturated. You got these. I ain't gonna say what these people is.
I think I
Mess
know
up
you
my
going.
YouTube stuff. But they be in your LinkedIn trying to all in your inbox trying to say, hey, do you need any certs and this and that. I hit them with the block because people they done seen this pandemic as a way to money grab everything, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, cool, I understand. Y'all can do all the other tech areas, but security, networking, I can't say the stuff that matters because everything matters, but the technical things that where we could be fired or not, nah, y'all can't come over here with that.
Right.
No way, Jose. And I'm a stand 10 toes down on it every time it come across my timeline. Every time somebody say some foolish, I'm gonna stand down on it because I'm like, no, I ain't finna lose my job because you don't know what you're doing. I've had to babysit people on the job for because I'm like, fam, do you know how did you get hired?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And I guess that's pretty much what I fight almost every day is, my main goal and my main purpose right now is anybody who wants to get in this field, I'm gonna make sure I teach them the skill set that I have and I know. And then I'll be like, okay, cool. You know how to configure a switch. I'm telling you how to do projects, how to stay poised, how to do rollbacks, how to like make network changes like in a set amount of time, how to, like change windows. Like I'm teaching all of these characteristics of somebody, who's done it. And I'm giving you the confidence to do it. And now, okay, go get certified in this, and I always tell people this. There is never, ever, ever going to be an IT department where everybody knows everything that they're doing. Half the people that are there
facts.
are pretty much dead weight. You see what I'm saying? And you wonder how many people got there. You know what I mean? So I mean, it's true. Like I've had to fight, like not physically, even though one I want to, you know what I mean? Like, but
Mhm.
like like I would always have to fight something, babysit, you know what I mean? Because it's like if you come in, you know what you're doing, And then the people that are there, they don't know what they're doing. You're making them look bad. And so now you're public enemy number one because you actually know what the hell you're doing. So
Yeah, man. I don't even want to get into like how you can come in and do your job right or better than everybody else, and then people want to hate or think you're getting special treatment. I'm like, no. Like, I can't remember if I put in my article, but I said my last position showed me like if me and you and everybody else that look like us get to start the same place as everybody else at a job, how much more successful we'll be.
right,
Because I got a chance to start at the same place, and within the 6 months, and I didn't even have the most experience there, but I just came in working hard. I was the best, and I ain't gonna say I was the best far as like I'm the best technical person. I was just the best worker because I did everything.
right,
You know what I'm saying? I was like, I think it's in my messages when I was before I left and I was on like vacation or whatever. Word is bond. Dayspring would say, "Yeah, bro, it's different when you're not here." Because I was the brunt. I'm picking up stuff, making stuff look better. You know what I'm saying? Than y'all thought it was. and that's what I tell people. I put on my last tweet before I kind of like deleted the Twitter app. I was like, "Hey, come into the new job and do the stuff people don't want to do. People gonna pay attention. Don't think they might not say nothing to you because like when I first got there, I had one of the one-on-ones. My new manager, he was like, "Hey man, I just want to tell you, I got a lot of feedback, and everybody's like really high up on you, man. So keep up doing what you're doing." So I'm like, go in and make an impact, and that's why at the end of my book, I put people, I told people like, hey, how you level up at work, like how you go to the next level. That's why I put that at the end of the thing because it's basically saying, all right, now you got the job, let's get, let's really get there, and that's really all you gotta do. And if they don't appreciate your hard work, get another job.
right.
Them people will fire you in a second. I've been laid off. So I ain't gonna never tell you to stay somewhere and just try to hope for the best. Nah, man, especially when they're underpaying you. I had a consultation when I do it earlier. He told me, and this kind of made me mad because they do this to people that don't have the experience. The recruiter or something had asked him in the process of like, oh, what he was currently getting paid. And I was like, never tell them that because it don't really matter. I was like, it doesn't matter what I get paid. It was don't got no bearings on this job, and redirected to them and asked them about the job focus. But anyway, they asked him that, and then when he told me what the offer was, he's in California now. They had offered him like 60 something, 60K ish for like a entry level security role. And security analyst, I was like, first of all, that's below average. Cause he said when I read the average, it says below. I said it is below average. Maybe if this was like 2012 or 13, maybe. Yeah. I said, and the fact you're in California and inflation that went way up, man. They
Cost
bugging.
of living? What?
Right. That's what I'm like, they are bugging. So these companies, the smart ones are coming with it. They throwing a bag out to everybody because they know, hey, stuff going up. We want good workers. We're gonna have to pay them good money. We'll have to offer them good bonuses. And the ones who ain't, they get left behind. That's why I left for one company I was working at. They didn't have enough incentives. I was just like, y'all cool, but y'all not gonna keep nobody here because y'all don't offer enough incentives for them. And that's what's been happening. Slowly but surely, people just been leaving because they was like, hey, I like y'all, but there's somebody else over here willing to give me, unlimited PTO, bonuses, holiday pay, salary, you know what I'm saying? You name it. Stipends for my phone. It's out here, man. That's why I got like different HR people, recruiters. I got a slew of things planned with all these different episodes
Right.
coming in. But shoot, man, I had freaking got you off your path of you was talking about what search you after the CCNA. So what else would they need to get after? Not really have to get, but what else would they need to work on after the CCNA to be able to land a cybersecurity role?
So what I would tell people is get your Security Plus, get a CCNA, and then I would throw in like an entry level cloud one, like a AWS or Azure, because now everything is going in the direction of cloud. And especially when you're trying to kick in the door of IT, you want to be pretty well rounded and well versed. So whether you get an entry level cloud role, networking role, help desk role, or security role, it doesn't matter. The main purpose is to get in the door in IT because it's easier to pivot into a role you want than it is to get in. I guarantee you that. You know what I mean? So, and then not to mention, if you have those certifications, you have a CCNA, they're not just going to pay you $15 or $18 an hour like how they would if you just have a Security Plus. Now you got a little bit more room to negotiate, your salary. And so, yeah, those are my three. My mentee, one of my mentees, one of the guys I pretty much told him the same thing. He got his Security Plus, CCNA, and his AWS Solutions Architect. I trained him on the CCNA. He got the certification, but I told him, like the commands, like all my favorite show commands, all my favorite commands on like the ASA, like my cap wap stuff for like the wireless. I showed him like Cisco Prime and like all this stuff. So like he had a pretty good bead like on the Cisco stuff. And I think one of his first roles after he was an intern we was at was like 90 something, and he was like what 22, 23. Now I can't promise those results immediately for everybody, but I can promise you that you will get there if you have that foundation. Because
Yeah, definitely.
like one thing that I've learned is that if you have if you're even if you're a mid-level in network engineer, you're a senior Citrix engineer, because you're going to know how packets flow from one spot to another. If you learn Citrix and you're networking, you're senior. Same thing in security, because networking and security, not everybody knows that. But if you do networking, like like source and IPs, like source and destination IPs, source and destination ports, like and then we can look at a network diagram and we can actually determine whether something is a network issue or a security issue. Same thing with virtualization. The mid-level network engineers, like, high up there in virtualization and high up there in AWS and Azure too. So I always tell people, like, look, networking, you really can't lose, like, if you start doing the networking and then just actually find something that you want to do. Like, find something you like. That's
Yeah, man. You're right, though. I mean, I honestly say, I'll probably also say, judging on based on the area and where the job is you're applying to, that'll probably depend on what they want to offer you too. Because I've had clients like my client, she got offered I think like 80 something for her first security role. I think it might be in Denver or somewhere, but it's because she really wowed them. But I knew she was gonna be special. So I've had different clients get different offers. I know like some get like 60 something, some get 70 something. It really do depend. But like I said, more companies are and these people didn't really have like all the experience. I know she was coming from a different career field, and I think she still was in school. So they're out here. You just got to really find the good companies. And a tip is to really only apply to jobs that you think your skill set fits. Because a lot of times y'all just applying to stuff, and that's when you get hit back because your skill set don't fit the job. And that's why they ain't called you back, because your skill set don't match. Ain't nothing personal. It's just business. So that's why I always tell people to do that. And then
yeah.
also to get past HR is I tell people use LinkedIn. And if you can't find a recruiter, find somebody on the team or the hiring manager and say, hey, how you doing? I'm really interested in this role. This is who I am. This is what I'm working on. This is what I can do for your company. You can send them something like that briefly. They eventually see it and, hey, let's get an interview with this guy. Because you're going the extra length of like showing them why you want the position. Because a lot of times they say, hey, why you want to work here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so the thing about HR and just getting in and just getting a job, you got to play the game. HR is playing the keyword game. You play the keyword game too. You want to get into cybersecurity, you can throw Splunk, your Q radars, your Tenables, your Fire Eyes, like get that stuff on there too. You want to do the zero trust, get your Zscalers and all that stuff on there too.
Hey, you giving them too much free game. You get it. I'm just messing with it. But nah, man, because the crazy thing is the fact that you don't really know how many different softwares there is and applications there are until you actually get exposed to it. I'm learning new stuff too now. Like I didn't even know what Area 1 security was.
I ain't even heard
Before
of
my right, yeah. And then before that, my last job, I had never heard of Tanium.
it.
And Tanium was a cool EDR solution,
Yep.
man. Tanium was pretty cool.
Carbon Black.
And Carbon Black, Sentinel One. I got stock in Sentinel One. CrowdStrike is a favorite of mine.
Oh yeah, CrowdStrike is huge, and they have a free trial for like people who want to get into cybersecurity. And see, those
no, send that to me because I got a resources channel on my Slack channel, and I actually was working on an EDR video for on my channel. And I actually was trying to talk with them to say, hey, let me get some lab access to CrowdStrike, bro. You know,
I got you. Like I just released my course on Saturday to teach people the basics, and it's, you know, it teaches like the fundamentals of IT networking and security, but it's like in that I'll show them like real world stuff of what I'll do. Like I'll open up a SIEM and then like show them how to look at logs and show them how to do
and
stuff.
send me that too. All that stuff I normally put in my resource section. Just like shout out to Melvin. I put his how to start your consulting course. Company. I put that in my resources too. When I open up my Slack space. So yeah, I mean, send it to me because we got some stuff that I got planned. Like I gave away some SOC training by my guy Eric Thomas.
Yeah,
Me and him working on some stuff for everybody. So yeah, man, I'm really like kind of going all in on like really trying to help as many people as I can. Absolutely. Because I wish I could have like, it took me a while only because I didn't know where to go. I didn't have no mentor that could sit me down and say, okay, do this and this, learn this. All I had was somebody say get Sec Plus, which was cool, but it wasn't enough.
Well, yeah, because they didn't put any context behind it. You know what I mean? But it's like even getting the context, you know, it takes a while to learn that stuff. You know, like people like will come to me and be like, I don't know why you recommend Security Plus or CCNA. And I'm just like, dude, there are Cisco Gold certified partners out there that get discounts for hiring Cisco certified people.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Microsoft. You got companies like your Microsoft heavy MSPs. They incentivize people, you know, for being Microsoft certified. And it's like that for several vendors. Why not?
Right.
And then with the security stuff, you got the DoD 8570 stuff, which requires them to like have certain certifications. So like, you got to play the game, you know, like.
Yeah. That makes me want to find that Triple H post I did talking about the game when I said I'm going to be on my cerebral assassin stuff.
Yep.
The whole 2022. But
2022.
But yeah, also that I'm also working on like Azure 900 right now. Just a simple. But I think the next thing I'm gonna do is they actually have a security analyst or SOC analyst path in Azure, like as a cert. So I actually want to work on that because I want to have stuff I can recommend for them to do. And I've been seeing Azure make so many different waves now that it only makes sense to dive into that, and you know, AWS as well. But I haven't seen AWS with that as well, because I don't know if AWS is going to come out with their own like EDR solution or something. Like, you know how Microsoft got Microsoft Defender, and they got these other things. And so using that or showing somebody how to use that, which I actually they'll let you do a free trial of it. I just didn't set nothing up. I was just so busy to set stuff up and try to attack VMs and let it, you know, the logs go over into Sentinel and Defender. That's one of the ways. Like, that's a good thing about the cloud that we didn't have 5-10 years ago, is that you could just go in Azure, AWS, set you up some systems, and then start doing logs and stuff through it, record yourself with it, send it to a recruiter and say, hey, I understand all this is a home that I built virtually through the cloud.
Yeah.
And I set up, you know, my VPCs and my EC2 instance. I set up these regions and these availability zones. And you start talking like that to a guy in an interview, yeah, you may not have the experience, but they might like where you headed. So it's really all about how you sell yourself at the end of the day. But honestly, man, it's a Friday. You done gave so much game about how you start off, even, and we probably could take this thing on like 5 hours, no lie. I'm gonna definitely have to. I may be trying to do another live stream this month, like I did the last one about like why you're successful in your career. So be on the lookout for that. I'll probably hit you up and a couple other people, and we just get on there and chop it up. See some, you know, black men talking about tech. I think that'll be pretty cool for YouTube, so we can, you know, bust the doors open with that. But yeah, man, I really appreciate you for stopping through. I know my guests do. Tell my guests where they can follow you at on social media and YouTube.
So my YouTube channel is Talk Tech with 50. You'll probably see me commenting on most of these videos. You know what I mean? Like, I'm always dropping like a comment or something. I need to get back to posting, but like with work and now this course I release, and so that's my video, Talk Tech with 50. I am 50 Knows Everybody on Instagram, spelled correctly. College Park 50 on Twitter and Clubhouse. So
that's a bit, man. Y'all already know where I'm at. All my socials in the description. His socials will be in the description, man. Appreciate y'all for rocking with me and everything that y'all do to support me. Hey, there's been another episode of the Textual Talk. Let's get textual.